It started like any other morning for 17-year-old Malik Harris. Sunlight creeping through the curtains of his modest bedroom, the faint sound of birds outside, and the smell of breakfast wafting up from the kitchen where his mother, Angela, was always up before the sun. Malik had dreams, big ones. A straight-A student, gifted in math and music, he had his heart set on attending Howard University. He wasn't into trouble, didn't hang in the streets, and never missed curfew. But in a world where skin color could turn you from student to suspect in a second, that didn't matter. On that particular Friday, Malik had stayed late at school for robotics club. His mother texted him to stop by the local grocery store to grab some eggs and orange juice on the way home. It was barely 6:45 p.m., still light out, and Malik, in his school uniform with a backpack slung over one shoulder, walked into the corner store just like he'd done a dozen times before. What he didn't know was that just minutes earlier, a robbery had occurred 2 blocks away. 2 suspects, black males, hoodies, one tall and thin, the other medium build. That's all the store owner could tell the cops. That's all it took. Because when Malik stepped outside with his receipt in one hand and a plastic bag in the other, he found himself surrounded. "Hands up!" yelled an officer. "On the ground," another barked. Confused and afraid, Malik looked around. "Wait, what? I didn't do anything," but the officers didn't listen. Within seconds they slammed him to the ground, knees in his back, twisting his arms behind him as he screamed in pain. The eggs smashed beside his face. The receipt fluttered in the wind. A small crowd gathered. Someone yelled, "He just came out of the store." Someone else shouted, "That's not the guy." But the cops weren't interested in clarity. Malik was handcuffed, shoved into the back of a police cruiser, and driven away like he was guilty until proven innocent. At the station they didn't let him call his parents. They didn't read him his rights. They questioned him harshly, accusing him of crimes he didn't understand. "Where's the other guy? What did you do with the money? Where's the weapon?" Malik kept pleading, "I don't know what you're talking about. I just came from school." But they weren't listening. Hours passed. At home, Angela was panicked. Malik's phone went straight to voicemail. She called everyone, friends, teachers, even the school security guard. No one had seen him. She called the police department, but they claimed no record of his name. Finally, at 11:27 p.m., she called the one person she hadn't spoken to in over 3 years, Malik's father. Retired Staff Sergeant Damon Harris. Damon had left when Malik was 14, after a bitter divorce. He hadn't been a perfect father, but he'd always protected his son when he was around. When Angela explained what happened, Damon didn't ask questions. He said, "I'll find him," and hung up. At the precinct, Malik sat shivering in a holding room. One officer, Detective Granger, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Still not talking, huh? Maybe we let you cool off in juvie for a while." Malik clenched his fists. "I'm telling you the truth." But Granger just smirked. "You all say that. Then your daddies cry to the media once it's too late." At that moment, the door to the precinct opened. Heavy boots echoed through the corridor. A tall, broad-shouldered black man in a sharp black coat walked in, eyes like stone, voice like thunder. "Where's my son?" Damon demanded. The rookie cop at the desk looked up. "Excuse me, who?" "Staff Sergeant Damon Harris. Retired U.S. Army. And unless you want to explain to your captain why you're holding a minor without cause, I suggest you bring him to me, now." Tension rippled through the room. The senior officer stepped forward. "Sir, we can't release." "Try me," Damon said, pulling out a folder. Inside was Malik's student ID, medical records, report cards, and a printed GPS history showing Malik had been at school during the time of the robbery. Damon had receipts. And rage. Within 20 minutes, a lieutenant was called. Then Internal Affairs. And then the media, thanks to a call Damon made to a friend at the local news. But the officers weren't backing down yet. They claimed probable cause. That Malik fit the description. Damon's voice didn't rise. He didn't yell. But his eyes burned. "You're going to release my son. You're going to issue a public apology. And you're going to hope I don't file a federal lawsuit." The lieutenant hesitated. And that's when a lawyer showed up. One Damon had called the moment he got Angela's call. Civil rights attorney Ava Morgan. With her briefcase in one hand and a court order in the other, she marched in and said, "Release him now, or I take this straight to the judge." Finally, at 2:07 a.m., Malik was let out of the holding cell. His wrists bruised, his face pale, his eyes red. When he saw his father standing there, he didn't speak. He just collapsed into his arms. Damon held him like he had when Malik was a baby and whispered, "I've got you, son. They're not taking you from me." But the story was far from over. Outside the precinct, cameras flashed. The news had arrived. Malik's name was trending. But so were the lies. The department released a statement. Teen matched description of armed suspect. Detained for questioning. No formal charges filed. No apology. No accountability. Just spin. Damon looked into the cameras and said, "My son isn't a suspect. He's a scholar. He's not a thug. He's a child. And this department will answer for what they've done." But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Detective Granger had quietly deleted body cam footage from the arrest. A junior officer who protested was suddenly put on leave. Something wasn't right. Malik returned home, but nightmares plagued him. He stopped smiling. Stopped sleeping. His teachers noticed. His friends noticed. But worst of all, someone started leaking rumors, online comments suggesting Malik had been part of something bigger. That he was let go on a technicality. The slander spread. Colleges pulled back. Internship opportunities disappeared. And one afternoon, while walking home, Malik found a threatening note shoved into his locker. "We're watching you. Keep your mouth shut." Damon was furious. But Ava was calm. "We'll expose this. But we need proof. We need someone inside to talk." And then, unexpectedly, that someone called. A rookie cop. Nervous. Anonymous. But clear. "I know what they did. I saw them delete the footage. I saw them rough that kid up. They're covering for Granger." Damon froze. "Will you testify?" Pause. Then, "Only if I know I'll be protected. Granger's got friends. Dangerous ones." "What do they have to hide?" Damon asked. And the officer whispered something so chilling it made Damon sit down. "Because this wasn't the first time. And if you dig deeper, you're going to find out what really happened to Jamal Curtis." Damon's blood ran cold. Jamal Curtis. A name from the past. A case long buried. A story they said was accidental. But maybe it wasn't. Damon hung up and stared at the wall. "They're hiding something, Malik," he said quietly. "Something big." And that's when they heard the knock at the front door. 3 loud bangs. Damon looked out the window. 2 plainclothes officers stood outside. Not smiling. Not friendly. No warrant in sight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Damon didn't move. His eyes locked on the 2 plainclothes men standing outside the door. Their posture was too rigid. Their expressions too blank. No warrant. No ID shown. Just cold, silent intent. "Malik," he whispered, "go upstairs now." Malik hesitated, but Damon's voice left no room for questions. As his son disappeared up the stairs, Damon cracked the door open just a sliver. "Can I help you?" "Mr. Harris," said the taller of the 2. "We need to speak with you about your son. Then get a warrant." "This is unofficial," the other man said. "Just a conversation." Damon stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "You've got 30 seconds. The tall one smirked. "This can all go away. The rumors, the online noise, your lawyer friend's stunt. All of it. Just keep the boy quiet." "Or what?" Damon asked, already knowing the answer. The shorter one leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You don't want to make this difficult. Granger has powerful friends. Political ones. Military ones." Damon's jaw tensed. "You're threatening a war veteran on his own porch?" "We're offering you peace," the tall one said. "Take it." Damon stared, silent, stone-faced. "Get off my property," he said and walked back inside. The door slammed shut. Inside, Angela was already dialing Ava. Malik peeked from the stairs, his face pale. "What did they want?" "They wanted you quiet," Damon said. "Which means we're getting close." That night, Damon made a decision. He wasn't just going to protect his son, he was going to dismantle the entire machine that had tried to destroy him. They started with Ava's legal team, filing a formal civil suit against the department. But Damon didn't stop there. He contacted national civil rights organizations, shared Malik's story again, and this time, with audio from the anonymous officer who had witnessed the arrest. The internet exploded. Hashtag Justice for Malik trended on every platform. Celebrities tweeted. Civil rights groups rallied. The mayor issued a vague statement. The police department was silent. But behind closed doors, panic was setting in. Meanwhile, the anonymous officer, whose real name was Officer Daniel Ruiz, agreed to meet Damon in person. In the shadows of a quiet park after midnight, they sat on a bench while Malik waited in a nearby car with Ava watching closely. "I was new," Ruiz said. "When Granger tackled your boy, I didn't think. I just followed protocol. But when I saw him delete his body cam footage and laugh about it after, I knew I'd messed up. I stayed quiet, but now, I'm done." Damon leaned in. "What about Jamal Curtis?" Ruiz swallowed hard. 2 years ago. Same pattern. Young black kid, honor student. Picked up on suspicion. No charges. But they beat him. But said he resisted. He filed a complaint, then he went missing. Missing? No one investigated. His mom moved away after. Rumor was, he tried to kill himself. Others say he was paid off. But the report vanished. Granger's name was on it. Damon's stomach turned. This wasn't just corruption. It was systemic, ugly, buried by layers of silence and fear. Ruiz handed over a thumb drive. "This has a copy of the deleted footage. I recovered it before they wiped the backups." Damon took it like it was gold. "Why are you doing this now?" "Because I have a son too," Ruiz said quietly. "And someday it could be him." The next morning, Ava released the footage online. It showed everything. Malik leaving the store holding his receipt, smiling. The squad car screeching up. Cops jumping out without warning. Malik putting his hands up. Then being slammed to the ground. It was brutal. Undeniable. And utterly damning. The department tried to release a new statement. "We regret any misunderstanding." But the public wasn't buying it. Protesters showed up outside the precinct. The police union stayed silent. Internal Affairs reopened the case. But Malik wasn't healing. He'd been pulled from school after threats escalated. A brick was thrown through their window one night. Online messages flooded in, "Snitch family. Should have stayed quiet." Granger's got people everywhere. And then came the lawsuit. Not the one they filed. One filed against Damon, Angela, and Ava by a man claiming defamation, Detective Charles Granger. It was a calculated move. To scare them. To flip the narrative. The lawsuit cited emotional distress, character assassination, and libel. "This is what abusers do," Ava told the press. "They attack first, then play victim when exposed." But behind closed doors, she warned Damon, "This won't stop until we uncover everything." That night, Damon searched old files. Newspaper clippings. Articles about unsolved cases. One name kept coming up. Captain Maurice Kellerman. The man who had promoted Granger. The man who'd quietly retired after Jamal Curtis disappeared. Damon dug deeper. And what he found was chilling. A network of cover-ups, sealed records, and payoffs tied to Captain Kellerman's inner circle, including city councilmen, lawyers, and even school board members. "This is bigger than Granger," Damon whispered to himself. "This is a ring." But just as he started to share the evidence with Ava, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Static. Then a voice. "Colt. If you love your son, stop." The line went dead. Damon stared at the screen, rage boiling. But the fear was real. "They're watching us." And then the nightmare returned. Malik didn't come home. His phone went straight to voicemail. Angela called all his friends. No one had seen him. Ava pinged his location. Last seen at the park where they always met after therapy. A public park. Cameras everywhere. But no footage. Ava checked traffic cams. Offline. Damon grabbed his coat, heart pounding. "He's gone?" Angela cried. Damon's jaw tightened. "No. They took him." Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The silence inside the Harris home was suffocating. Angela sat frozen at the dining table, her trembling hands clutching Malik's empty phone case like it held answers. Damon paced the floor, each step heavier than the last. Ava was already on the phone, barking at a tech contact for real-time access to street surveillance. "No traffic camera footage? That's not a coincidence," she snapped. "Check parking garage cams, building feeds, anything private in the radius. Malik had disappeared after therapy, his usual safe space. But every trace of him was gone. No eyewitnesses. No digital footprint. It was a ghosting, clean and professional. Not street crime, coordinated. Targeted. And Damon knew exactly who was behind it. Granger. "They've taken my boy," he growled, hands clenched into fists. "We should have moved faster." "This is Granger's last move," Ava said grimly. "He's desperate. And whoever's backing him. They're running out of places to hide." "Then let's bring the fight to them," Damon said. "I need everyone who's ever filed a complaint against Granger. Every sealed case. Every missing name. Already on it." Ava made calls. Damon called Malik's school friends, piecing together Malik's last known movements. Angela sobbed quietly, barely able to breathe, until Ava placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We're going to bring him home." But hours passed with no word. Ava's team finally cracked one thing. A utility company camera outside a maintenance building picked up a van. White, no plates, tinted windows, pulling up to the edge of the park at 5:14 p.m. Malik had walked in at 5:10 p.m. The timing matched. A shadow of someone matching Malik's build was seen being pulled inside. Then the van sped off. Damon stared at the screen, fists shaking. "We find that van." Meanwhile, in a cold, windowless basement across town, Malik sat handcuffed to a chair. His face was bruised. His lip bleeding. The lights above flickered harshly. Granger stood in the corner, arms folded. "See what happens when you make noise?" he sneered. Malik glared, defiant. "You're going to jail for this." "No," Granger said, chuckling. "See, no one's looking here. Your dad can scream all he wants, but there's no judge, no case, no footage. Just you. And me." He leaned forward. "Now you're going to record a message. Say you lied. Say your father made you do all of it. Say Ava Morgan manipulated you. Then maybe you walk out of here." Malik stayed silent. Granger's slap echoed through the room. "Say it." But Malik's voice came hoarse and sure. "I'm not lying. And I'm not afraid of you." "You will be," Granger hissed. Elsewhere, Damon's lead finally paid off. A tip came from Ruiz, the rookie officer who had first come forward. "I heard something," he said in a whisper. "There's an abandoned precinct. Closed 2 years ago. No surveillance. Word is that's where they take people they don't want seen." Damon's heart pounded. Location: 30th and Glenmore. Damon and Ava didn't wait. They grabbed gear, cameras, flashlights, and called trusted journalists and 2 civil rights leaders. "If they've got him there," Ava said, "we're going in with witnesses." When they arrived, the building looked dead. Windows shattered, doors rusted, weeds overgrown. But a black SUV was parked in the alley. Damon signaled. Ava nodded. They moved. Inside, the air was thick with mold and decay. Footsteps echoed. And then voices. Damon turned the corner and froze. Down the hall, through a cracked door, he saw Granger, standing over Malik. "That's enough," Damon roared, kicking open the door. Granger spun around, gun already half drawn. But he wasn't fast enough. Damon charged. The gun fired, once, but Damon had already knocked it to the floor. The 2 men crashed to the ground, fists flying, decades of rage and injustice exploding in one brutal moment. Ava rushed to Malik, unlocking the cuffs. "You okay?" "He hit me," Malik whispered. "He said I had to lie." Cameras flashed. Journalists streamed in behind them. Phones out. Recording everything. Granger stood, bloody and exposed, realizing too late, the entire world was watching. But just as Ava read Malik's rights aloud, a loud crack echoed through the building. A back door swung open. 3 uniformed officers burst in. "Drop your weapons," one screamed. Damon raised his hands. "We're unarmed." But these weren't ordinary officers. One of them wore a patch, Kellerman. Damon whispered, "Captain Kellerman?" The man who once protected Granger. Who buried Jamal's case. And who had just arrived, not to arrest Granger, but to silence all of them. "No one's leaving this building," Kellerman snarled. Ava stepped forward. "We have video. The press is outside." "Not enough to stop bullets," Kellerman said. "You crossed a line, Sergeant Harris. And now we erase the whole board." Damon stepped in front of Malik. Ava raised her phone to livestream. But before she could press record, Kellerman raised his gun. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Kellerman's pistol was steady, his finger twitching over the trigger as Damon stepped in front of Malik, arms stretched wide. The cold air in the abandoned precinct tightened like a noose around everyone's throat. Ava's phone was raised but shaking in her hand. "You won't get away with this," she said, her voice low but unwavering. "There are cameras outside. Reporters. Civil rights leaders. Your time's up." "You don't understand the world, lady," Kellerman sneered. "I've made careers, buried cases, and walked out of rooms no one thought I'd survive. You really think a few videos and tweets will bring me down?" "No," Damon said calmly. "But truth will." That's when a gunshot exploded through the room. Ava screamed. Malik ducked. But no one was hit. The bullet tore into the ceiling above, sending plaster raining down. Kellerman's warning shot. "Next one goes through your chest," he snarled, pointing the barrel straight at Damon. Suddenly, chaos erupted behind them. Reporters bursting in, cameras rolling, and behind them, uniformed officers from Internal Affairs. Ruiz had called for backup. "Drop your weapon," shouted one of the IA officers. "This is your final warning." Kellerman froze, blinking in disbelief. For the first time in decades he was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, his power slipping, his secrets unraveling. "This is a setup," he growled. "You're making a mistake." But the evidence was all there, on Ava's live stream, in the recovered footage, in the testimonies from victims past and present. Granger, now restrained and sitting bloody in a chair, laughed bitterly. "You really thought this would end clean, Harris?" Damon looked over at Malik, then back at Granger. "I don't care how it ends as long as my son walks out alive." The IA team disarmed Kellerman. The building was locked down. And for the first time in weeks, Malik felt something return to his chest. Relief. But the story wasn't over. Back at the precinct, under heavy supervision, Kellerman and Granger were booked. Charges were being filed. Assault, kidnapping, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice. The media devoured every update. #Justice for Malik now had over 3 million shares. Ava filed a multi-million-dollar civil suit against the city on behalf of the Harris family. Donations poured in. Activists mobilized. The city was awake. But deep in the police department, something stirred. Damon received a call from Ruiz late that night. "It's not just them," he whispered. "There's another layer. A judge. A politician. A private security firm linked to the school board." Damon stiffened. Why would the school board be involved? Because Jamal Curtis wasn't just a random victim. He was building a case, had recordings, files, names. And the last person he spoke to was the assistant superintendent. Damon froze. The same assistant superintendent who had quietly reached out after Malik's first arrest, offering support. Ruiz continued, "There's a file. A black folder. Jamal hid it. It's never been found." Damon hung up and turned to Ava. "We're missing the bigger picture. What happened to Jamal wasn't a mistake. It was a warning. And if that file exists, it's the key to everything." Ava nodded. "Then we find it." The next day, Damon and Malik visited Jamal's old neighborhood. The building was abandoned. His apartment sealed. But after hours of searching behind a loose panel in the wall, they found a taped plastic bag. Inside it, a worn black folder. The contents chilled them. Documents. Hidden recordings. Names. Dates. Secret meetings. It tied high-level officials to a pipeline of targeting young black boys in certain schools, feeding them into the justice system, framing them to protect development deals, silence whistleblowers, and destroy futures. Damon read a note written in Jamal's handwriting. "If you find this, please tell the truth. Don't let them win." Ava's hands trembled as she whispered, "We have enough to take down an empire." But before they could act, a black SUV screeched up to the curb. Masked men jumped out, armed, fast, tactical. "Get down!" Damon yelled, shielding Malik. Bullets sprayed the wall behind them. Ava ducked, clutching the folder. A masked man lunged and grabbed Malik, pulling him toward the SUV. Damon gave chase, feet pounding, heart roaring in his chest. "Malik!" he screamed. The SUV door slammed. Tires screeched. Ava threw the folder to Damon and yelled, "Don't let them take him again." Damon ran into the street, firing a flare gun skyward for police tracking. But the SUV vanished into the dusk. He fell to his knees, the folder pressed to his chest, his son gone, again. This time by forces even darker than before. As Ava knelt beside him, sirens in the distance, she whispered, "Whoever these people are, they're bigger than the department." Damon's eyes narrowed. "Then we take the whole system down." Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The morning after Malik was taken, again, the entire city felt like it was holding its breath. The footage of the masked abduction had already gone viral. A teenager once wrongfully arrested had now been kidnapped in broad daylight, despite being the center of a national civil rights case. The headlines were relentless. Where is Malik Harris? Corruption runs deeper than we thought. Justice system exposed, but at what cost? Damon Harris hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't cried. He was too busy hunting. Ava had taken the black folder, Jamal's secret evidence, and secured it in 3 separate safe locations. A team of investigative journalists, civil rights attorneys, and cybersecurity experts were now all working together under one goal: find Malik and dismantle the network of power that had built a prison out of paperwork and shadows. "They think they can silence us," Damon said through clenched teeth. "But they just told the world they're afraid." Within hours, a major breakthrough. One of the voice recordings from the folder featured a familiar accent and vocal tick. A speech expert matched it to Councilman Walter Price, a powerful local politician with deep ties to both the school board and private correctional facilities. Price was a man no one dared cross until now. Damon and Ava went public with the name. That night, Price's office was surrounded by press. He denied everything. But the audio was undeniable. The public was livid. Protests ignited across the city. But still, no Malik. That's when Ruiz called again. "I have something." I recognized one of the masked men from the video. He used to do private security for Price's campaign. Ex-military. Dirty. If he's involved, they're hiding Malik somewhere off-grid. Maybe one of those old contractor sites Price invested in. Damon knew one of them, an old detention facility that had been decommissioned but never demolished. A ghost site. Damon, Ava, and a tactical search team moved in. They brought cameras. Legal observers. They weren't going to be quiet this time. At the edge of the forested property they found it. Barbed fences. Guard towers. Lights still faintly humming with stolen power. The gates were chained shut but not locked. Damon's gut clenched. Inside it was worse than expected. Empty cells. Old security monitors. And then, a scream. "Help." Damon ran toward it, his son's voice cracked and raw. He kicked open a steel door and found Malik, tied to a chair but alive, eyes swollen but burning with fire. "Dad." Damon rushed in, cutting him free, holding him like he did when he was 5 years old and had scraped his knee. "I got you, son. I'm here." Ava stepped in behind him, cameras rolling. The world is watching now. But just as they moved to leave, the steel door slammed shut. A figure emerged from the shadows, Councilman Walter Price himself, flanked by 2 armed guards. "You don't understand, do you?" Price hissed. "You've ruined everything. Do you have any idea how much money this system makes?" Damon stepped forward, shielding Malik again. "That's all we are to you." "Revenue? Control?" Price spat. "Every kid like him that we redirect feeds our schools, our courts, our jails. And nobody cared until now." Ava held up her live-streaming phone. "They care now." Price paused. For a moment he understood what he had lost. "You think you've won?" he said. "You've just made yourselves targets." But before the standoff could escalate, sirens erupted outside. Ruiz had brought backup. Federal agents. Civil rights marshals. News cameras. The building was surrounded. Price's men dropped their weapons. Damon stepped out into the sunlight, carrying his son in his arms like a hero returning from war. The crowd erupted. Cheers. Tears. Reporters yelling questions. Malik blinked in the sunlight, overwhelmed. But alive. Free. Over the next few weeks, everything unraveled. Walter Price was arrested. So was Captain Kellerman. Granger, facing multiple charges, agreed to a full confession in exchange for a reduced sentence. The black folder was submitted as evidence in a federal investigation. More names fell, Judges, educators, and board members who had knowingly fed black youth into systems of harm for profit and political gain. The case would be studied in law schools for decades. Malik returned to school, this time with security, support, and scholarships from nearly every HBCU in the country. But more than that, he found his voice. He began speaking publicly about justice, resilience, and what it meant to be a black teen in America who was almost lost to a system that was never designed to protect him. Damon stood beside him at every event, no longer just a father but a shield, a guide, and a reminder that courage runs in the bloodline. Ava went on to lead a coalition against youth criminalization and systemic educational bias. Her work transformed policies. Angela opened a counseling center for mothers dealing with racial trauma and legal injustice. Malik eventually chose Howard University, just like he always dreamed. But he didn't go in as just another freshman. He went as a survivor, a symbol, a voice that refused to be silenced. And on his first day, as he walked past the monument of black scholars before him, he whispered the name of the boy who first tried to speak truth. Jamal Curtis, this is for you. Systems can be powerful. But truth, courage, and love, especially in the hands of a determined black family, are stronger. Never underestimate the impact of speaking out, standing up, and pushing through fear to demand justice. Because sometimes the difference between a buried name and a national voice is just one father who refuses to give up. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift black voices and expose hidden truths.